Welcome to the series where I analyze poems, and today I'll be analyzing To Fathers with Daughters by Rupi Kaur. The poem starts off like this. Every time you tell your daughter you yell at her out of love, you teach her to confuse anger with kindness, which seems like a good idea, till she grows up to trust men who hurt her because they look so much like you. On the surface, it's a very simple poem. You may be wondering, what is there to analyze if there are no language devices and Rupi Kaur pretty much says it as it is. If you're a dad and you yell at your daughter, when she grows up, she's going to end up in abusive relationships with men because they remind her of you. But is that all that Rupi Kaur is saying? In this video, I want to analyze both the poem and the drawing that accompanies it. I chose this poem because of its deceptive simplicity and the complexity of its theme, father-daughter relationships. Perhaps what makes this even more poignant for me as a South Asian reader is hearing this truth from a South Asian poet. Rupi Kaur affirms the generational wounds that embed our culture. Hence, Kaur is a breath of fresh air in the literary world. No, she did not use a fancy simile. She did not use rhyming couplets, but she said the truth which often is swept under the carpet, and that is enough to start a generational revolution, and I, as a reader, am all for it. Let's have a read. Every time you tell your daughter you yell at her out of love. Stop there. Kaur chooses to have the phrase out of love on its own line. Kaur wants the reader to focus on the justification the father figure is giving for yelling at his daughter. The use of enjambment, no punctuation at the end of each line, allows for the narrative to build at a relentless pace with no control, almost echoing how this abusive father-daughter pattern has never been controlled or tamed, simply allowed to unfold at its own pace. The narrative of father-daughter is spilling through the words, and the simplicity of it allows for the reader to imagine a time when they were yelled at by their father, and then reflect on how it's impacted them. For some, this poem could function as a mirror, a window into the past. The thoughts are half-forming. Remember, this is your father you're talking to. The narrative voice is slowly building up her courage to confront her father. We go from the first line, which is, every time you. Then the line ends, like the thought has not finished yet. Then we end up in line 5, where the narrative voice almost blurts out, you teach her to confuse. So the courage is building, and then it crumbles apart. Because when she talks about how she grows up to trust men who hurt her, the last 2 lines she can't even say in a full sentence. It's broken. It's so broken. And so is the narrative voice emotionally. Because they look so much like you. Notice how the words like you is on its own. The very last line. This shows the profound impact the abusive relationship of the father has had on the daughter now she is a grown woman. And also could imply that she is scared to say that the abusive men she has had relationships with look just like her dad. That would be a very difficult thing to admit. In a nutshell, Kaur's use of enjambment and deliberate choice to have some phrases on their own for a specific impact is what allows this poem to be so hard-hitting. At once, we, as readers, are transported to consider the impact our fathers have had on our growth and the men we trust as a result, and whether we do, indeed, confuse anger with kindness. Let's have a look at the artwork. Notice how her hands are behind her back, which presents this sense of shame. Notice how she has a headband, and if you look closely, it's almost as if she's staring at the ground. It gives off to me this image of a girl getting yelled at, eyes down, hands behind her back, being talked down upon. But also, the drawing complements how the poem discusses the journey of a girl growing up. Because the girl in the drawing is likely about to enter her teen years, and this is symbolized by the bottom right corner of her skirt. It is flying upwards at an angle, which could show a couple of things: the fading of her childhood and her ascension to her teen years, or it could also show vulnerability. The upward angle flight of her skirt almost exposes the rawness of her femininity, and that is also what the poetic narrative voice has done here by confronting her father in this poem. She has laid bare the rawness of her childhood wounds, which have affected and molded her into the woman she is today. A key question you might want to ask is Rupi Kaur pinning the blame of a woman's development and her consequent relationships with men solely on the father? I would argue no. Rupi Kaur is not pointing the finger of blame. She is pointing this finger of responsibility. You are responsible for making sure when your daughter grows up, she trusts good men and she chooses good men in her life because she's seen what a good man looks like. And it is on the onus of fathers and father figures to give their daughters space, to be emotionally transparent, to let them grow, to let them be, and to support them no matter what. No need for this door in between. No need for this throttling of words that are spread usually in anger towards the daughter because she is considered the one who has to bear it. So no, I don't think she's blaming. I think she has highlighted how the culture could improve, and it starts in the home. So if you're feeling inspired, then I recommend using the techniques of enjambment and intentionally having words on one line for impact in your own writing to explore a topic of your own choice. You could write a poem on two mothers with sons, for example. Look at it from a cultural lens, look at it from a historical lens, a societal lens, or a deeply coveted emotional lens. It's up to you. But use the technique of enjambment to show the uncontrollable flow of a relationship and how some behaviours go unchecked. And comment below your work. I would love to read it. Or you could consider how you can use a fine line drawing to subtly show emotions and the passage of time. For example, the way in Rupi Kaur's book, there is the drawing of the girl, and the fine line drawing not only evokes the growth from a child to a teen, but also the weight of feminine shame. The way the girl is looking down, even though you can't see her eyes. The way her arms are behind her back. Have fun with it, but also explore how simple things, simple artistic choices, simple linguistic choices can show a difference and a level of depth to the topic you're wishing to explore. And that will be it. I hope you enjoyed this poetry analysis session as I enjoyed analysing it.